When you see the world as a proving ground, you see the people around you not as playmates. You see them as competitors, people that are trying to take what is yours. You see the work is something that you have to earn, that you have to prove that you're worthy.
What up, friends? Welcome back to the Vibe with Kai podcast. I'm Kai. I'm so happy that you are here today. If you are new here, this is the show where we talk about ADHD and mental health and the chaos of being human. We do that honestly, and we do it with a lot of laughing, and we do it with zero toxic positivity. Today, I am sitting down with my friend, Gary Ware, the founder of Breakthrough Play. He's a facilitator, a keynote speaker, a coach, and the author of Playful Rebellion, Maximize Workplace Success Through the Power of Play. When most people hear the word play, they picture ping pong tables and pizza parties at the office. That is not what Gary means. And once he explains it, it's kind of hard to not see. So here's what we get into in this episode. Gary makes the case that the opposite of play is not work, it's depression. And he credits Dr. Stuart Brown for that. He describes a proving ground where you stop seeing people as playmates and you start seeing them as competitors. He tells me about a night that he nearly fell asleep driving home and had to pull over. And he gives me a 5-minute move that you can make this week to get your play back. I'll be honest, the last one, it stopped me cold. And I told him on the recording that, as you'll hear, that I'm stealing it. So I've already started that. What I hope you walk out of this episode is with permission. Not the kind that somebody hands you. It's the kind that you finally hand yourself. With that said, everything that I do lives at thevibewithkai.com, my blog, my newsletter, my store, and every single episode of the Vibe with Kai podcast. And we're on season 7. So there's a lot of episodes out there. Thevibewithkai.com is the #1 place for all of the mental health content resources that you're looking for. So with that said, sit back, relax, and enjoy my chat with Gary Ware.
My friends, I'm sitting here with my friend Gary Ware. What's up, man?
What's happening, Kai? I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. Yeah. I'm like super excited because we became friends officially at NeuroDiversion 2026, right? And I was saying to you before we started recording that this right here I've been carrying around for anybody that's listening and not watching. I have a little fidget toy item here that Gary gave to me. I think it was on day 1 of the conference before we even started. And it's like the best, it's one of the best fidget items that I've ever played with. And I want people to know where it came from because it's so good. And here's the thing, you showed up to the summit. You found out that I had ADHD. You knew I was all about the ADHD world. And you handed this to me. And you built this with your 3D printer. Am I correct? Yep. Is that how? And I genuinely have not put it down since. And for context, you showed up to an event about neurodivergence, and your instinct was to arrive with something made by hand, something physical and playful to offer a person that you just met. Is that who you are, Gary? How did that become who you are, and what does it mean to show up to spaces with that kind of intention?
I love it. Yes, that exactly is who I am. One of my sort of how I display love is gift giving. I love giving things that are personalized, but also if you think about when we were kids, that's how we played, right? Like we were on the playground and so it's like, hey, you want to play? Here you go.
It's like the best. It's like one of those things where it goes a long way because it seems like a simple gesture, right? It seems like a small gesture, but those small gestures, like things like that connect to a bigger philosophy, right? And you teach, you literally teach about creating environments where people actually feel safe enough to play. Is this part of that strategy? How does small physical gestures like that connect to the bigger picture?
Yeah. So if you think about play and playfulness as adults, we've been taught that, that's childish. That's what kids do. There's a lot of research that shows that we are wired for play. Adults are wired for play. That's how we learn. That's how we connect. And for me, I'm all about, as you mentioned, creating psychological safety. And what's better than, hey, you know what? Here's a gesture. Here's something that I made that I would like to give to you as a way to create that serotonin, that those endorphins, that dopamine to allow us to connect and to be our playful self.
Yes. And I want to clarify the word play here, because for anyone that's just finding you through this episode, I want to give them a clean place to start. When most adults hear the word play, the brain immediately goes to things like coloring books or recess, like things that feel like they belong to, I guess, the previous younger versions of themselves. But that's not what you're talking about at all. In your book, it's called Playful Rebellion, Maximize Workplace Success Through the Power of Play. In that book, you make the case that play is not something we earn after finishing everything on our list, and that it is something. It's like this radical idea that's like a radical idea for a lot of people. How would you describe what play actually is for an adult who has probably completely lost touch of what play feels like?
For me, very simple. Play is doing something where you're immersed in the experience and it doesn't matter about the outcome. You would do it regardless of the outcome. And yes, recess, coloring, those are playful activities, but it's so much deeper than that. And it's something that I only discovered as an adult.
And you're doing a great job with it. I'm curious. When I saw the title "Playful Rebellion," I love that. I just love that because it has like this mature, playful feeling to it. But it's like, where did that title come from? Playful Rebellion. What specifically are adults asked to rebel against?
We're rebelling against the status quo. This status quo that we've been conditioned to think that play is juvenile, play is something for kids, play is something that you do only when the work is done. Also, I'm a big Star Wars fan, so anything to like have like a little Star Wars Easter egg. But in all seriousness, it's all about reconditioning.
Yeah. There's a piece in your work that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. And it comes from Dr. Stuart Brown, who's the head of the National Play Institute. And in this, it makes the case that the opposite of play is not work. It's depression. Yes. When you first came across that finding, how did that land for you personally? And why do you think most people have never once heard of that?
Well, it hit me like a ton of bricks because when I thought about it, I was like, you're so true, because when you're not playing, you're in this, like Dr. Stuart Brown calls it play deprivation. And I think about every time that I've experienced burnout, every time that I experience like just overwork, like the last thing, yes, that I wanted to do is play. But the other thing too is work can be play. This gentleman, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, he talks about flow. When he describes flow, it's almost parallel to when you're in a play-like state. So yeah, that makes sense. But again, we're not conditioned that. We're not conditioned to think of like, oh, what work can be play? No, play is only hopscotch or playing video games. Like, no, it's actually getting into the state of flow where you're being challenged just enough. Time flies like this. Again, when you're with other people, you're connecting. And why can't your work do that? And especially if you're doing something that you enjoy.
Yeah. I want to dive into that play deprivation thing that you just mentioned. What does play deprivation, I guess, look and feel like in a person's daily life? Like if someone is deep in it right now, are there like signs that they can look for that they may not recognize?
Yes. I talk about this as seeing the world as a proving ground. When you see the world as a proving ground, you see the people around you not as playmates. You see them as competitors, people that are trying to take what is yours. You see the work is something that you have to earn, that you have to prove that you're worthy. And when you do that, again, you're void of play because you're doing it for the outcome. And when you do that, you work harder than you need to. You don't take breaks. If you've ever found yourself saying, no, I need to push through. No, don't get me wrong. I'm all about working hard and getting what you need to get done. But there is a difference. There's a difference. And when you're in that difference, it's like just all or nothing. Yeah. And you see other people's like, no, I can't tell Kai what's going on because he might take all these good ideas and use them. Like you see it as zero-sum game. And when you see the world as a playground, you see the work is something that is meant to be challenging and to overcome. You see other people as collaborators, playmates. So that's, again, it's just all part of how we've been conditioned. It's this Protestant work ethic, if you've heard of it, of, we have to work, because if we don't, we're going to get into trouble. And I feel like folks that are neurodivergent have been taught that because they've been, in their sort of, I like to say, sort of mature stage, we were probably a bit wild. And so the only way to keep us sort of in that box is to say, you got to do it this way. And we sort of take all the playness out of it.
Yeah. And I love that phrase that you use, like that proving ground. right? Like I feel like it kind of stopped me in my bones when I heard it, because for a lot of people in my audience who are carrying ADHD, anxiety, long-term burnout, that proving ground, that feeling can become so constant and becomes so constant that they stop noticing it. I feel like
Yes.
we stop noticing it. Have you ever felt that shift in your own life? Like what did it quietly cost you before you had any sort of language for what was actually happening?
So you're absolutely right. Like that proving ground, especially folks that are neurodivergent, and like it's that ongoing masking of like, oh, I better keep this facade up because if people know that I'm neurodivergent or something, it may cost me my job. And I was diagnosed out of college, age about 26 or so, and it was when I realized I'm like, wow, something must be up because I feel like I can't adult at all. As I went and I got diagnosed, I had a feeling, and again, I grew up in the 80s where it's just like, what? ADHD, what? And so I just so happened to like be able to get through all schooling. I don't know how I did it, but nonetheless, I'm finding myself as an adult. I'm like trying my hardest. I'm like working harder than anyone else. I'm staying later. I'm getting up earlier, but I just feel like I'm broken. And so I was like, you know what? Let me go talk to a doctor. Maybe it's just anxiety or something like that. And they did a formal diagnosis and found out I have ADHD and I'm also dyslexic. So nonetheless, that was a big eye-opening. Wow. All right. But I still wasn't giving the tools to really be myself. I got medication and that helped, but it didn't help with all the other executive functioning things as well. And so I still found myself overworking. I still found myself trying to prove myself. And it was a moment where this is the moment like where it just hit me. I'm like, something needs to change. I was working for this large agency and I found myself, again, just working harder and harder. But again, that was par for the course. Everyone found themselves saying, yeah, you know how much I work? Oh, I work 15 hours. Yeah. And so it was the thing. So no one, no one stepped up to me like, hey, Gary, is everything okay? Like you're living at the office and stuff like that. But this is where it changed for me. I'm driving home exhausted. I have a 45 minute drive home and I'm just so tired. I have the AC blasting. I'm chewing ice and I blink for a split second. Like I didn't doze off, but like I felt like it and it startled the hell out of me.
Oh yeah,
and
that's
I pulled
scary.
over. I pulled over, had to compose myself. I'm like, wow. And in that moment, I'm like, wow, something needs to change. Again, I just felt like, I'm just trying to like mask. And it's like, it's not who I am. Like I need to do some sort of shifts. And so that's when I really started to seek out, there has to be more than just medication for ADHD. There has to be strategies. There has to be something because I'm clearly not doing this right.
Right. So it sounds like you had like you thought of a specific moment that I guess was a turning point that you can identify. Is for some people, is it always going to be like a specific point like that, or is it something that may sometimes like creep in slowly over time?
Yeah, I used to use this quote. You know how to kill a frog, like put them in a like water and slowly turn it up. Apparently, that is been debunked. You can't kill a frog that way. So, but I don't have a new analogy yet.
Fair enough. Fair enough. We'll go with it.
I feel like folks.
Yeah.
You're right. It does creep up. It starts with like, let's take work. Since we've been talking about work, it takes like, you know what? Let me just stay a little bit after work.
Yes.
You know what? Let me get up a little bit earlier. Oh, hey, you know what? I'm gonna take some work. I'm gonna work on the weekend. You know what? That vacation. We're too busy right now. And now this could be anyway. It doesn't have to necessarily be neurodivergent folks, but neurodivergent folks are like impacted more, in my opinion, than others because of the fact that it's challenging with executive function. And a lot of times, we don't want to be seen as someone that cannot do things, so that we work harder than we have to, or we work against the way that our brain is wired. But it's those little things. And then like, oh, I'm just going to eat my lunch at my desk today instead of like going out. And then you blink and that it just becomes your reality.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to go a little deeper there, because what you're describing is not only a personal story. There's some real science behind why our brains lose access to play and what that deprivation does to us over time. I know you were just talking about your schooling, and you admittedly have, like you said this, that you grew up as a goofy class clown. Me too. Was 100% the class clown. And you mentioned how you were the class clown who would booby trap the house on April Fools. right? And crack jokes constantly because humor was genuinely how you connected with people. And at the same time, you didn't receive your ADHD diagnosis until I think you said your mid 20s, right?
Yep,
When you
correct.
got your diagnosis, which means if my math is mathing correctly, you spent years moving through classrooms and potentially even early workplaces carrying that wiring with no name for it, no support for it. How did those two things go together? Your natural playfulness and your undiagnosed ADHD brain. How did that shape the way that you experience school and your life like in the workforce when you were, out of college?
It was one of those things where I started to not trust myself because my natural sort of sense is like, let's make this fun. This is all about connecting. And I, again, having ADHD, I needed that sense of dopamine as a way to like get that spark to get going. But yet every time I did something that would like help me get that, it would, no, Gary, sit down. No. Or like, and again, my parents, they're trying to be, helpful. And that's the thing where I learned like you can only play when the work is done because my dad didn't know what to think. Like I just goof it off all the time. And he just, growing up, I was instilled that education is very important. I totally get it, especially if you're a person of color and you want to, try to make something, you have to be educated, to give you the best chance of success. So I totally got it. But again, my brain didn't get it. And so the way that my dad helped me was, and this is where I was learning about like some of these hijacks of, all right, I like playing and I want to play, but I have to get my work done. All right, that is the motivation I needed. And so it worked in a structured environment like school. But again, I didn't trust myself because all the things that my body was like, hey, you do this. And again, I like to say when we're kids, we have this wild energy that just needs to be tamed. But if they don't know that your brain is wired differently, they're going to try to fit you in this box. So I was told all the things that my body was like, do this was wrong. So I stopped trusting myself. And so as an adult, where I don't have the structure of school and like deadlines with tests and stuff like that, and it's just up to my own thing, I didn't trust myself to play because I'm like, my dad said I can only play when the work is done, and I'm behind on work, so I can't play. And I got very serious.
Yeah.
And I'm the goofy guy. And so like, again, talk about that mask of like, I want to like, crack jokes and stuff like that. But no, this is serious. I'm at work. This is work, Gary.
Yeah. I want to go back to when you finally got your diagnosis as an adult. Did it reframe any of those early memories for you? Like the times that you would, maybe get in trouble, or the times that your energy got disciplined instead of channeled? Once you got your diagnosis, did it clear some things up?
No. And it like, oh, that makes sense. All right, I have ADHD. It was one thing that I sort of thought, and people like, oh, you're sort of acting ADHD. It was like used as one of those things. And my mom had dyslexia. Both my parents have both, but were undiagnosed. So it was one of those things where I started telling people like, oh, I got this diagnosis. And like, oh yeah. Like I would tell family like, oh yeah, look at your dad. Or, I'm like, all right, well, that's not necessarily helping me. So I say no in that like, all right, it sort of validated a few things, but I didn't have any of the knowledge. Like, so to be honest, I tell people getting diagnosed was the worst day of my life because essentially in order to diagnose me, they have to put you through these experiences to make sure that it is true that you have ADHD. So I took these battery of tests. I took both the ADHD assessment and the dyslexia assessment all at the same time. So it was about 6 hours worth of tests. And afterwards, I was exhausted and I felt like hopeless. I felt stupid because, again, they put you in these situations to like make sure that you're dyslexic. Like the dyslexic one, oh my gosh, it was just so exhausting because they would have you do these directionally things. And I'm like, I don't know, like it's not working. And they do all these other things. And then when I came back, the person said, well, you've adapted very well. Like I watch you do these things. You have these things that you do that help you do this stuff. I'm like, well, I'm 26. And so it wasn't until years later where I realized, and more people were talking about ADHD, that I started to like realize like, oh, this is not a disability. This is just my brain being wired differently. Because the diagnosis just mean that I already had something, but I felt like more at this point now, like, oh, I am a disability. I'm not just like lazy, like my brain is broken or like that's how I thought. Because again, I didn't have the knowledge that I have now, and it wasn't until it was 2006. So I was 26 when I got diagnosed, and it wasn't until 2012. So 6 years later, I'm at this a social media conference, and I see the first person openly talking about ADHD. His name is Peter Shankman. And he wasn't. It wasn't a talk about ADHD. It was a talk about to be honest, I don't even know what his talk was about, but he openly talked about how he has ADHD and how he is like 3 decisions away from potentially being on the street just because of his ADHD. And hearing him openly talk about that and how he's adjusted his life to account for his ADHD was the first time I ever heard anyone. And that was an eye-opening for me. And I immediately sent him an email and said, thank you. Thank you so much. Because up until that point, I still thought I was broken.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to throw some numbers at you, and I want to know your thoughts on it. I saw a Gallup study that found that roughly 70% of workers in the United States are disengaged from their work on any given day. The National Bureau of Economic Research found that people are now logging approximately 4 extra hours per week beyond the standard 40. And the Bureau of Health formally recognized burnout as a serious medical condition. When you hear these things, when you look at these numbers through the lens of what you know about play deprivation, what is the biological cost of a culture that has decided joy is a luxury, right? And the rest is something you earn after proving yourself. What are your thoughts when you hear stuff like this?
One, it's so unfortunate. It's because we could be way better off. But let's talk numbers. It's costing companies billions of dollars in loss of productivity and like cost in rehiring because people get disengaged. They go try to find another job, all because we are essentially treating our workers like they work at a factory. Going back to sort of the Protestant work ethic, back in the industrial age, that's where a lot of these things came from. Did you know the 40-hour work week was something that Henry Ford petitioned for?
I didn't know that.
And it was because before that, it was 6 days, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And his employees on his factory line were getting injured because they're tired. And so he petitioned to say, hey, all right, let's work 40 hours, 40 hours a week, 5 days a week. One, because then, and then essentially everyone got a pay raise. They didn't, because they work less. But guess what? Then people could drive cars. Because again, if you're working 6 days a week, how are you going to drive a car?
Right.
But anyways, we're still treating people like they work in factories. And how you optimize people for working in factories is you apply emotional pressure, economic pressure, and inertia to keep things status quo. But guess what? We're in an era where Anyways, we're in a time period.
I know what you meant. Yes.
We're in a time period where we can't have people working like that. One, because burnout and stuff like that. But two, things change all the time. And if you want your employees to be innovative, if you want them to actually be able to think on their feet, you have to create a psychological safe environment, and you have to optimize for 3 different things. And this is from this book, Primed to Perform. And it talks about intrinsic motivation, and intrinsic motivation is play, purpose, and potential instead of economic pressure, emotional pressure, and inertia. And it's completely different, and it shifts how work is done, and it goes to more of optimizing for play. And play is, like I said in the beginning, is not ping pong tables and slip and slides and
pizza
stuff like
parties
that. Pizza parties.
Yeah.
But it's, hey, how can I create an environment when people can be their authentic self, where people can take breaks and step away from the work? How can I create moments so folks can connect and not worry about being productive? In those moments, actually, people are more productive and they work less, because the people who work more, they end up making more mistakes.
Right. Yeah. In your book, Playful Rebellion, you describe a moments at the digital marketing agency where you watched leadership remove the word fun from the company's official values, and they replaced it with the word excellence.
Yes.
You were present when it happened, and you admitted that you didn't fully register what was being lost in that very moment. Why is that kind of shift so easy to miss? And what does it say about our workplaces? About how they, I know you were just talking about this, but like how they condition people to just release joy without ever announcing that is what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, again, our values is how we show up. And prior to that, we were this scrappy startup. I came in as employee 23. By the time I left, 5 years later, there were over like 200 and something employees. And we had a lot of fun. And we worked very hard. And it was one of those things where the company's like, we are growing up and we need to shift some things. And their intention was to prove to the outside world, again, proving ground, that they are this reputable company. And reputable company, excellence. And when they took fun down, because they didn't want it to be seen as like, we're just, again, things like that are seen as juvenile and whatnot. So when that happened, our behavior shift and we stopped, again, going to lunch. We stopped doing the thing that we actually should do. Like literally, you should take a break and you should go to lunch. And we still worked harder, but we didn't have that play. And it's so interesting.
Yeah.
But the whole vibe of the organization shifted and it became one of those things where we felt shame if we did these things because we're going against what the company stands for. And that ended up being the downfall, in my opinion, of their culture.
I want to talk about, no, you're good. I want to talk about the improv class because this story does something to me that I love. You were burnt out. It was a Monday. Your mentor told you to go and you almost convinced yourself not to show up because you were tired, you were busy, but you ended up going anyway.
Yes.
And for 2 hours, you were fully present. You were laughing. You were making mistakes. You were connecting with 15 strangers you had never met before in your life. When you walked out, the work was still there, right? Your responsibilities were still there, but something in you shifted that day. What happened in that room that made that your brain had been starving for?
So it was so simple. Essentially, it's just play. I'll just get down to brass tacks. It was play, but it was also connection. It was also presence. It was mindfulness. And it all happened through a silly improv class. And for the first time in a long time, I experienced joy and true joy, like not joy that was influenced by alcohol or anything like that. It was just by being in community with people connecting. And my body, it was like I was a raisin and I became hydrated. And it was something like that. I don't even have the words.
Yeah. I like the word joy here because you have this concept of the compass of joy, which is an internal guidance system that is supposed to point you back towards your own playground. So for someone who feels like their compass is friggin' broken or buried for so long that they don't even remember what their playground even looks like, how do they go about recalibrating that? What does that process look like in actual everyday terms?
Dr. Stuart Brown is the perfect person to go for this. He talks about taking a play history. And in that play history, you think about when you were younger, what are the things that you do that brought you joy? Now, I like to say, like Dr. Stuart Brown says, how did you play as a kid? But sometimes people, especially if you grew up in traumatic homes, you don't necessarily think that you played. And especially if you don't have a true definition of play, you might say that you didn't play. So I say, what are the things that you did that brought you joy? The things that you did that time just passed and, you enjoy doing. Start there. That is like in the Hansel and Gretel, that's the breadcrumb. Then ask yourself, how can I do that now as an adult? Now may require some creativity, some adjustment. And if you don't mind, I have a story of someone that I was working with during the pandemic that went through this.
Yeah, please.
This person, their sort of default way of playing was through travel. But then the pandemic hit and they couldn't travel. So they replaced that with more work and they found themselves being burnt out, exhausted, anxious. And so we were chatting and I asked that question. What did you do when you were younger that brought you joy? And they said to me, I played with Barbies, but Gary, I'm not about to go to Target and buy some Barbies. And I was like, no. Let's unpack that. Like, what about that brought you joy? And that's where, and I knew it was onto something because they paused for a second. I saw a little smile and they said, well, I always wanted to be a mom. And so, so I would play with my Barbies and I would be the mom and it was like, it was a lot of fun. And so we found out the key thing here is nurturing. Nurturing was the key word. And I said, all right, let's do a little experiment. What is something that you could nurture? And we settled on plants, specifically succulents, because this person didn't think that they had a green thumb and they tried growing, caring for plants and it always went bad. So Succulents, they're hard to kill. They last for a long time. They can live with very little water and attention.
Yeah.
And so started with one. I said, look, take some time to research it. Get one succulent. And that became their little playtime. For a little bit, a week, they would go and they would research how to take care of this, and they enjoyed it. And they started with one succulent, and then on the weekend they went to the nursery, got a few more. Pretty soon they're propagating their succulents. Then they got to the point where they were taking cactuses and they were like surgically removing parts of cactuses and growing it on other parts, like Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And last time we checked in, this person has over 250 succulents now.
Wow.
And this brings them so much joy. It's something that they look forward to. It's and naturally, we were checking back in, and naturally, this is the thing that steals the joy out of things. It's an adult thing. People say, "Oh, are you going to sell them? Are you going to start a business now?"
Right.
Not that it's a problem, but a lot of times that's what we do. Like we find something that brings us joy, and we're doing it, and people immediately is like, "Oh, now you got to make money." Because you can't possibly just do something.
And now it becomes like a task. It becomes like a job of sorts now. It's like
Now, don't get me wrong. That maybe that might end up being the thing, but it shouldn't be the outcome of I'm enjoying this thing. It should just be just the sake of doing it is play. And that is the essence of that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of parents and busy professionals that listen to this show. And they often feel like they genuinely just don't have control over their time. There's other people filling their calendar. They have kids running around that they have to take care of 24/7. The demand never stops. And carving out anything for themselves feels like a fantasy. So for those people specifically, what is something that they can do, maybe low friction, that they can maybe do this week that doesn't require anyone's permission or like a single extra hour of time that they don't have? What is something that they can do?
Well, first off, we should make a playlist. So you're absolutely right. When you're in sort of go of life mode, oftentimes you're not operating consciously. You're in unconscious mode. I have 2 kids, busy schedule. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Take some time to daydream and just like, what are some things, like if you had 10 minutes, what are some things again that could bring you joy? Maybe it's doodling, maybe it's, maybe you do have, want to, care for succulent. It doesn't even matter. Just make a list. Just make a list on your phone, things that you could potentially do. And this is what I recommend doing, because we can all carve out time, but I get it. When we're stressed out, what happens is the limbic system of our brain, the fight, flight, or freeze takes over, and we lose access to the prefrontal cortex, the creativity centers. So naturally, you can't be creative. So this is what I recommend that you do. You create this list when you're in a better state. And I challenge you, most people won't take me up on this, but the people who do, they will get the benefit. Replace the location of your social media app of choice with your Notes app. And when your brain goes to push that button unconsciously, it's going to open the Notes app. And when you were going to scroll on social media, I challenge you to do one of the things that's on that list for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. If that's too hard, 2 minutes.
I love that idea. Oh my gosh. I might have to do that one myself, my friend. I might have to do that one myself. That's a gorgeous idea. Holy cow. I think you might have blown my mind a little bit, Gary. I'm not going to lie.
And that's again, just to get started.
Yeah.
Because you're absolutely right. When we don't think we have enough time, the brain's going to find all the reasons. So we have to hijack. We have to we just use our psychology, our physiology in our favor. And the thing is, if you're automatically going to do something, like just replace it with something else. And again, we probably don't want to admit it, but we probably spend more time on social media than we like to admit. And a lot of times,
I'll admit it.
It's
I do.
unconscious. There's research now that shows that people are unconsciously reaching for social media before they make a conscious reaction that that's what they're doing. And then they're already there. So they justify like, oh yeah, I'm just going to do this. And then you blink and then your legs are numb because you've been sitting on the toilet for like an hour. Like,
Yep. I can't tell you how many times I'll make a video and I'll post it online where all I'll say is, I'll just ask, how long have you been sitting there? Just like, how long, what are you supposed to be doing right now? And like the amount of people that are like, are you in my house right now? How do you know? But it's only because it is a common thing that like people just struggle with and have to manage. And if you learn how to manage it by doing like these tips and tricks that you're offering here, like you could conquer the world. I feel like I feel like you can get so much good stuff done that you maybe always wanted to get done, or and having that fun inserted back into your life, that play, that joy inserted back into your life, I think is essential. Is there a difference between joy and happiness?
For me, I feel like happiness is a result of something. I got a new phone. Oh, it made me happy. I went to this place that made me happy. Joy is deeper than that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, back in a previous life, I used to run, and I went through a phase where I wanted to see if I can run do a 5K, and I did a 5K, and then naturally I'm like, oh, if I could do a 5K, can I do a 10K, and then can I do a half marathon?
Right.
So I was into running, like typical ADHD, like it was a thing that it lasted for a season. But those training runs sucked. They sucked so bad, especially in the beginning. But afterwards, I felt this joy of accomplishment. Like, wow, I did that. And so sometimes we go through a rough patch and we struggle and we overcome something and we feel joy. Joy is like more intrinsic.
I love that. I've always been curious what the difference of joy and happiness is. And I think you explained that differently. I will say though, I'm not going to go running. I'm not going to do it.
Don't.
I find joy. I find joy in not doing it. It makes me happy, and I find joy in it.
Yeah, right.
I do like to work out, though.
Yeah. Well, I know we're going to flip the script in just a moment, but how do you work out? Like, like you don't find joy in running. Like, what do you do?
I just like to get my blood pumping. Like a lot of the stuff I do is like I do cardio, but it's like it's usually just on a treadmill, and I'll just to get the blood flowing because I have to like be physically active. I won't go for like a long run, but I will sprint. And so I'll do that. I do a lot of like core, and I do a lot of like leg work and arm work. Like those are the main spots that I'll hit every day.
Right. And
but
afterwards,
I'm not doing a 10K or a 5K or a 1K or a 0.3K. I'm not running.
You work yourself, and afterwards you're tired, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But you feel joy of like
I'm
completion.
happy, absolutely, and when you start seeing results, like that's a joy because like you like I recognize the work that I put into it. It's like you said, it's a little bit deeper than happiness. Like it's like a joy. It's like, yeah, look what I did. I did this, and I'm doing this. This is why. Like there's like a deeper meaning to it. So yeah, I think that's why I'm glad you clarified for me what the difference is, because it's true. There is a deeper feeling to it. And like, not to saying that that happiness is not important, because obviously it's important, but like like to say that you find joy in something or someone, that's some deep level stuff. That's some deep level stuff right there. You're right, man. I want to make sure that everybody that's listening or watching right now knows exactly where to find you, how to take this further. You are at breakthroughplay.com. All of your social media handles, your websites, I'm going to put in the the show notes of this episode. So all people have to do is click. You have your community hub with play challenges, and you have bonus resources. All of that is going to be linked at the bottom. But the one thing I really want to spotlight today is your book. We talked about this a couple of times. Playful Rebellion: Maximize Workplace Success Through the Power of Play. For the person who has been nodding along to this whole conversation today and knows they need this book in their hands, who does it exist for, and what will they actually have when they close it?
This exists for the person that thought play was just something that kids do. And they've been watching or listening, and they resonate with seeing the world as a proving ground. And reading this book or listening to the book, because it's on Audible, will not only just give them validation that it's okay to be playful, it will give them permission to be playful, and they will leave with a roadmap. They will leave with some activities. They will leave with things that they can actually do in that moment to start to rebel against the status quo that thinks that play is just for kids.
Yeah. I love that. So I'm going to include the link to that book in the show notes as well. Definitely go check it out, my friends. It's a good read. You're not going to regret it. Trust me. If you had a couple of epiphanies in this episode, wait till you read this freaking book. So definitely go for it. I asked this of all my guests. My final question. First and foremost, thank you again for taking time out of your day to sit and chat with me. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your insight and everything that you do. I appreciate your friendship, and by the time that this aired, actually, no, it's already announced. I saw that they announced the official dates for NeuroDiversion 2027. I will 100% be there because I met some of my closest friends there now. So I'll definitely be there regardless. So all that information is all out in the public. So hopefully I'll get to see you there as well, doing our thing. With that said, last question that I have for you. If there's one thing that you want the audience to take away from our talk today, what should that one thing be?
That one thing is that you are wired for play. Play is in all of us, regardless of how old that we are. And if you have been void of play, don't worry, it's in there. It's just atrophied. We just need to get a little bit of a workout and you will get it back. And when you get it back, it's going to be completely worth it.
I love it. Gary Ware, thanks for hanging out with me, my friend.
Kai, thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, real honestly. Thank you.
Okay, let me tell you what I'm taking out of that conversation. Number one, Gary described a proving ground where the people around you stop being playmates and they start being competitors. I thought about how many of us have lived there so long that we actually stopped noticing. That is not a personality. That is a condition that somebody put you in. Number two, he told me about a company that quietly took the word fun out of its values and replaced it with excellence. Nobody announced what was lost. People just stopped going to lunch, right? And that rattled me because that's how it happens in life as well. You just quietly stop. Number three, he gave me the simplest thing anybody has handed me in a while. Make a list of what brings you joy while you're in a good headspace. Then put your notes app where your social media apps should be. When you reach for the scroll without thinking, you land on the list instead of the social app. I'm definitely doing that one because I doom scroll all the time. With that said, my friends, if you take one thing out of this episode, I think you should take Gary's closing line. He said, I'm quoting here, "You are wired for play." Play is in all of us, regardless of how old you are. And if you've been void of play, don't worry. It's in there. It's just atrophied. Atrophied is not gone. Atrophied comes back. So go read Playful Rebellion, Maximize Workplace Success Through the Power of Play. It's on audio as well. You can also find Gary at breakthroughplay.com and at Gary Ware on socials. Links are in the show notes for all of those things. Everything that I do is at thevibewithkai.com, my blog, my newsletter, my store, every single episode of this podcast, and everything before it. One place for all of your mental health content and your needs. With that said, thank you so much for watching and for listening. As always, much love, good vibes. I'll catch you next time.